What's up, everybody, and welcome to this first edition of Behind the Record by 95 North. I'm Richard Payton, half of 95 North, along with my partner Doug Smith. Today I'm going to be going through the backstory on how we created one of our records called Bassline that we did under the alias DC track team for Emotive Records back around, I think it was like 1994. That record went like this. Okay, so as you can see, it was a really bassline driven track, kind of a simple rhythm, flute solo going over top, a few keyboard elements and whatnot. It's one of my more favorite records that we did. This record was born basically in the Sound Factory bar in New York City. I went up there one night to hear Louis Vega play, and hopefully play one of the records that Doug and I had done. It was remixed by L.A. Ferrer called I'll Make You Happy. And he ended up playing the record, which made me happy, seeing everybody dancing to it, making a little bit of noise and everything. So I was still hanging around in the club, and later on that night, he played a record that was like unlike anything I had ever heard before, with the bass line in particular. It was this rubbery, elastic bass line. I had not heard that style being played on a house record before. And that record was this record here. And I was just basically blown away. That was a Gene Perez bass line. I think that was maybe when he and Louis first started working together, I'm not sure. But anyway, and that just blew me away. Like the record just blew me away. So I'm driving home down on 95 South from the club back to DC, and I was trying my best to try to memorize what that song was, because it was going to be a while before I heard it again. But I knew that I wanted to make some kind of record that had that same kind of vibe, a bass line driven type thing. Like that rhythm, that dent, 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 dent kind of thing. So I was running it through my head on what kind of track could be created. And as I was doing that, another song kind of popped into my head by the group Cameo back in their funk days. And that record went like this. It's a record called It's Serious. And that also was a bass line driven track. But the unique thing about that was the bass line went in cycles of 3 bars instead of 4. If you listen to it, you can count, when it hits that little doo-doo-doo thing kind of thing, it comes every 3 measures instead of every 4. 1, 2, 3, and it starts again. So I said, okay, well, to make our record a little bit different, why don't we make ours going in cycles of 3? And when I was thinking of that, it needed some kind of chord progression to go along with it. And so from there, I said, okay, well, what can we do to make ours kind of like that? At this point right here, I also heard another element from their record. It was the guitar piece. Listen again. So I said, okay, well, that's an element that I want to use, and I took a little sample of that, kind of changed the EQ and whatnot to make it blend in, and it sounded like this on our track. Now those chords that you heard in there, those chords occurred to me one night driving home from work at the time, and for some reason, Spirit of the Boogie by Kool and the Gang popped into my head. And they had a chord progression similar to what I ended up incorporating in our song, but it went like this. Come on. So again, with this record going in cycles of 3, kind of wanted to have the same kind of dun dun pulse to ours. Ended up being like this. So there we go. We've got the concept going in cycles of 3, the chords, the little guitar part, and then for the bass itself. Now, it would have been nice if I had known Gene Perez and could have had him come down, but I didn't know him. Couldn't do that. So I said, okay, well, I want to try to, I'm still kind of going by this memory of the song I had, so I couldn't quite copy, what he was going to do. I wouldn't want to do that anyway. But I brought up a bass sound that I thought, would be somewhat close to what he had. And it was a factory sound on the EPS 16 Plus, one of the EPS 16 Plus discs called Rock Bass. But it was pretty cool. It was and you can do different things, with the pitch wheel to make it, a little funky. The mod wheel. Okay, so with that chord progression that I had with the dun, 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 along with I wanted to have this cowbell going, dun, 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 dun. So you got the basic pulse of this 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and so the bass line would have to be something along those same lines with that kind of thing. And actually, I've gotten loaded up here the actual sequences on the actual sounds that we used those many years ago, and so it kind of went like this. And I made about 4 or 5 sequences with variations on the bass line, and then just kind of like put them in sort of in random spots in like random order to try to make it sound like a live bass player just feeling the groove. Second one. Another one. And if you hear that that was one of the sounds that was on the factory sound itself. So again, everything you needed to make it sort of sound like a live bass player with the pitch wheel, the mod, and then you could, okay, got the bass line. Went through, and so I laid down like a flute solo as the main featured instrument to carry the track. I had a string line in it, had the couple keyboard pads in it as well. And during the breaks in between the flute solos, I wanted to have like a little something going along. So I had like a little factory sax sound, and also had this sound here, which, let's see here. And I loaded this kind of synth sounding sound, and I was kind of playing around with it. And when I heard it, it was kind of like it triggered something in my head, which reminded me of this. Big Fun by Inner City. So made me have the idea of having some similar progression, with the, instead of just having a kind of, the same kind of feel I wanted to have with that. And it ended up sounding like this. Again, with the song going in cycles of 3, I had to play it a little bit differently. It wasn't the exact same notes, but it was the same kind of feel. So pretty much I had all the elements there with the beat, the dun 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 pulse with the cowbell going along, the main rhythm of the song, got the funk loops in there, the funk feel rather from Spirit of the Boogie, Cameo, a little bit of a Big Fun kind of feel, putting it all together. And after putting it all together, it ends up, with the full song. With the full song, which would be more like this. So there you have it. So this is a prime example of hear a record that inspires you to do something, and then you add your own elements to it. You pull from this part here, this part here, this part here, and you start to create something that's your own. And you know, I tell it to producers, young producers who are, you know, starting out, or even ones who are established, even you know, peers and whatnot, that you know, you hear something and you take a little bit of here, a little bit of this, because everybody, no matter who you are, nobody works in a vacuum. You're influenced by something you've heard, something you've heard played, something of your own that you've created before, and you take those things and make something again that has your own stamp on it, and hopefully comes out to be something, you know, new. So after I put all the basic parts together, had it laid out, and then Doug Smith, my partner in 95 North, came up, and we finished the arrangement, the EQing and everything, printed it to DAT, sent it off, and as I said, it was one of the favorite records that we did. I hope it was one of yours as well. And that's pretty much it. So hope you enjoyed this first edition of Behind the Records with 95 North. Again, I'm Richard Payton. You can look me up on Facebook, and also follow the YouTube channel. There'll be additional videos like this coming out. Thanks again.